Season 2 of the Pat and JT podcast.
Oh man, I'm here at last. The best time, always gonna be the best. Come on!
Exclusively on the Parkville Network.
Well, all right.
Rate, review, and subscribe to our It's Pat and JT podcast. All the information's on our website, which is subsequently patandjt.com. And so we appreciate all the reviews and sharing it with your friends.
You know, it's really weird. I just ran out of the... I gotta catch my breath.
Isn't it great when you make like a short little sprint or like you walk up the stairs? Last night I was on the phone with somebody and I walked from, I have 5 stairs, 6 stairs going up. And I had to literally say, hold on a second. And I go to the gym all the time. Like, what's the problem?
I sprinted down the hallway.
That was a sprint?
Well, in my flip-flops.
Okay. I was going to say.
It was the best I could do without hurting myself. So I sprinted down the hallway in flip-flops, which is never easy anyway, to get my phone because I just started my Android tablet, as we know it, which is the debacle it is. And we are updating.
All right.
So we're now at app 41 of 127. Should have plugged this in earlier.
So at least you muted the notifications, at least I think, so it doesn't sound like little fairies are being born behind you the entire episode.
Yeah, I did.
There we go.
That's my phone. Hold on.
Every time an app updates, an angel gets its wings.
In my world, just saying. So I needed to get my phone because I don't have, obviously I don't think I'm going to have the access. Well, we're already at 70 out of 127.
So that's not bad. So
we're
you're
trucking
good.
right along
Yeah.
here.
Should be done by the time we're done recording all of our episodes for today.
Holy
Should be great.
smoke.
Quick little update from our house real fast is that now we are, there's no school. Obviously, I'm sure people know that by now. Millard's out. Millard's out.
Yeah.
And then it's spring break next week for Millard, so it's not a humongous deal. They got Friday off, and then all next week, and the
plans
foreseeable
are
future.
in place.
Kind of, but you know what?
For a lot of Millard families.
But what's crazy to me is that from the time I picked Sophia up from school yesterday, 3, whatever.
Yeah.
They were talking about Friday, going in on Friday and going because the next semester starts after spring break. So they were going to go into their classrooms for the next semester on Friday, get logged into
really?
their, they have different like not trimesters. That's pregnancy. They have
Mesters? They have different mesters.
Different mesters. There's a bunch of mesters.
There's semesters, there's trimesters.
There's hexters. There's whatever.
I don't know
anyway,
what that means.
A new group of classes start after spring
New
break.
pod.
So they were going to go in and log into their Google Classroom because the plan was that if they didn't come back after spring break, they'd be logged in and they could do the e-learning and it'd be great. That was at 3, and 5:15 that night they sent a text saying no school tomorrow at all. So not even getting in there and getting acclimated to the new classes and all that kind of stuff. They banged them out. So no school.
I don't know.
It seems so abrupt.
It does. I mean, it's like the Creighton game the other day.
Right.
Halftime. Go home. Or the basketball game the other night, the NBA thing.
I know, it's just weird.
It's just it is like they suddenly found out at 7:42.
Yeah.
Yep. You got to stop right now.
Okay, so you listened to, I think, did I ask you this yesterday about Joe Rogan? You listen to Joe Rogan ever?
On occasion.
He had, and this is a 15-minute clip, and I'll put it on our Facebook page. It's really pretty interesting. He had Michael Osterholm, who is he's a infectious disease expert, and he's very spoke 90%
Smart.
of the words I didn't understand what he was saying. So that means obviously he knows what he's talking about.
So you assume intelligent.
I assume. And Joe Rogan doesn't have dry humps on his podcast. Like he has some pretty good experts.
He does.
Anyway, so this guy, Joe's like, listen, why should I be scared of this? Why are we self-quarantining? Why are we doing all this stuff? And this guy he made it, everything that's going on now make a lot more sense, that it doesn't seem, this doctor doesn't think we are overreacting at all. He thinks we are actually reacting appropriately, and that if China and South Korea had done the same thing, they wouldn't see the amount of death and infection that they have seen.
Did he mention, because I kind of like have been, talk about a wormhole, this whole disease.
Yeah,
like I'm everything
scary.
from why is it named COVID-19, which I looked up, we'll talk about it, to all the other diseases that have names that, because they said no Wuhan flu, that's racist. And it's not really racist. It's just the way it's always been done. And when did that change? I was looking up all this stuff and I'm just like, they said that the first known victim of this disease in China was in November. Now they can trace that back to November. And I saw that pop up yesterday and it's like, but they don't know that that's the first, that's not patient 0. They're still trying to find that the beginning of this. But at the time they They didn't know what they were dealing with, but they didn't flag it.
Yeah, well, and that's part of the problem. And he mentions that.
And then they
specific thing.
they figured out how contagious it was. They didn't flag it.
Yeah.
And so now China's mad because people had pointed fingers at them and saying, we have been completely transparent with everything. It's like, no, you haven't. But you know what? Moving forward, let's just fix the problem.
Yeah. And
instead of trying to lay blame.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what we have. I mean, that's what even though the media makes you panic and makes the 3-hour line at Hy-Vee on 180th last night, people standing out the door getting stuff. Maybe it's appropriate, maybe it's not. This doctor seems to think that it is. And he said that the most shocking thing to him, and he wrote an article, and he went through this in this episode, it's on our Facebook page, that he wrote an article middle of January saying this is going to hit the United States, this is going to happen, we need to start taking precautions now. He did it in February again, and he said the beginning of March is when it's going to start getting bad. And he said people are saying, well, it's 10, 15, 20 infections. He goes, yeah, but it's doubling every day. He said, so when you get to 10, double to 20, not a big deal. Double to 40. Well, when you get up into the thousands and it starts going from 4,000 to 8 to 16 every day. He said, that's when it's going to be bad. And he said that alarmingly, 40-somethings, humans, are dying at a pretty high rate in other countries.
Yeah, the younger children have not been so susceptible. At first it was the old and the very young. And it's like, well, it's not really the very young. And it's adults and like they said, well, the NBA players were getting it. So it's not really, because you think an NBA player has got to be in good shape. Right? I don't know. But but that has to do with their immune system, and there's other things at play.
That's exactly what he said too. He's like, everybody's different. Everybody's different. You could have somebody. They did studies on people that had tested positive for it and had maybe were sneezing. That's it. But that person was in a room with somebody who contracted it and was dead a week later. Right. He said it's just you have no idea how it's going to react in your body. You could be under 19. Chances are you're not going to get it. They don't know why. He said they don't know why. But you're older adults, and he said people in their 40s and 50s.
Can they be carriers though? Under 19?
He doesn't know. Actually, Joe Rogan asked him that. He said we don't know for sure.
I'm as smart as Joe Rogan. I don't know what that means.
I think Joe. Anyway, Joe seems like a smart guy. If he's not a smart guy, he acts like a smart guy.
He asks good questions. He does. And he's fair in the fact that, at least is what I've seen, and I know I don't agree with everything Joe Rogan says, and that's good. Because you listen to him, though, he doesn't ever preach. No. He asks questions, and I think he's pretty fair.
And I feel like he's asking questions that I have in my head. Like he asks questions.
You wish you had
he doesn't have. Well, yeah, I wouldn't.
I wish I would have thought of that.
That I would have thought I had.
No, but that's the thing, is that sitting down and talking to somebody like that, I want to see more of that. Mm-hmm. I don't want to see. The media is in a bad spot, and they've kind of painted themselves in a corner, I think, with crying wolf a lot. And also wanting to lay blame. Mm-hmm. I mean, to be quite honest, and I saw a great little video that our own buddy, Mr. Jack Riggins, did last night maybe, I don't know. I think I saw it at 3 this morning. I'm not sure. I don't know what happened, but anyway, and he was talking about where he comes from as a Navy SEAL and his training, and that's where what I said earlier came from, is that our job is to work the problem. We don't care where it started. We don't care who is involved with it. We don't care who asked us to do it. It's a problem. Let's fix it. Mm-hmm. And stop trying to assign blame. Yeah. Stop trying to stir the pot.
Because it really, at this point, doesn't matter.
It doesn't. And when you hear people, when you see those tweets or those posts about, you can't call it Wuhan flu, that's racist. It's like, that has nothing to do with the problem. And to be quite honest, in fairness to people who do call it that, and I looked this up because I was curious about it, because it's like we always have called things, and we can go down the list, the German measles, the Spanish flu, you've got and we mentioned the other day, norovirus, Stockholm syndrome, Lyme disease. They're all named after the places where they were first discovered. Zika, Ebola, West Nile.
Which makes sense. It's like a default way to name something.
It was.
Super
and
easy.
Until 2015 is when they put together a directive. And it was either WHO, the WHO, or somebody along those lines that decided, we got to change the way we're naming these, because we're assigning them a location as opposed to a description.
I didn't even know there were locations, though, to be honest with you. Like honestly, Lyme disease, I had no clue Lyme was part of it.
Do you think of chickens when you hear chickenpox?
No.
I don't either. That's just the way it's named, and to me, it immediately goes to the symptoms.
Right.
You know, I think chickenpox. I think.
Why did they call it chickenpox?
I don't know. It has nothing to do with
Was
chickens.
it found in chicken,
Same way
Kansas, or
as-
something?
Same way as swine flu had nothing to do with pigs, even though it was improperly assigned to pigs.
Mm-hmm.
And there were countries that actually, I think I know for sure one country that had all the pigs destroyed.
Yeah, I remember that.
And that ends up being H1N1, right? But the swine flu spread much quicker, and was
It killed a lot of
and was
people.
killed a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
But there wasn't this kind of horror that's going on right now. But looking back at this, and now I understand why they named it COVID-19. Somebody said, well, that's because this is the 19th strain of coronavirus. There are a lot of coronaviruses. There's human, and then there's animal, and there's so many of them. I think there's 3 that have transferred from animal to human total, that they think they have proof of that, and I think this is one of them. That's why the bat story, you know, in particular, is held pretty strong. But the name COVID is coronavirus disease, and it is 2019.
Okay. I mean,
It could have been COVID 20. It could have been COVID 24. So it's COVID-19. That's the disease. The virus is a different thing, because there's a virus and then there's the disease. The virus is named SARS-CoV-2. So because it is part of the SARS, or along the same line as the SARS that we had before in the early 2000s, which is severe acute respiratory syndrome. It's severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus 2. That's the name of the virus.
got it.
Kind of like HIV and AIDS. One's the virus, one's the disease. And a lot of people assign them differently, you know, because that's the name that you just have in your head. And I just thought that just kind of clears things up for me just a little bit more when people are talking about it. So saying it's the Wuhan virus, which every media outlet was doing when this first started. And now they're all throwing rocks at people that say Wuhan virus, because that's what you called it. That's how we learned it.
And on top of it, that's what we're arguing about. And there's
Right.
after watching this doctor, that he said it's the next 3 to 6 months are going to be very bad. And, you know, and we're worried about what we're calling it. You know, I'm completely changing my tune as of yesterday, and then to watching this doctor this morning, really kind of changing. I'm not going to go out and start hoarding
Okay,
stuff,
so
but
let
I'm
me
really
ask you this,
changing my
though.
tune on it.
Do they feel the same way about the flu?
He did, and he referenced the flu too, the influenza. There was and he said the best thing we can do is what we are doing, and that's he said not necessarily the kids being out of school isn't necessarily a huge thing, because the young people aren't necessarily, if they aren't carriers, they're not really going to get it, so they could go to school. But he said that's another issue.
Right.
But it's the social separation or whatever we're doing. He said that's the best thing.
Thank God for Facebook.
What else? I mean,
Social separation. For Pete's sake, haven't we been complaining about that for a long time?
right, right. Seriously, what else?
We're never face to face. That's okay.
We're good.
This is not so bad.
He referenced the influenza in it was like the mid 1900s, and it was Philadelphia, I believe. Anyway, had a parade in influenza.
1918.
1918. Oh yeah, that's right. They were celebrating and the support for soldiers at World War I.
And it became the Spanish flu.
And he said that they, all over the country, they were closing churches, they were closing government buildings. But Philadelphia decided to go ahead and hold this parade. 200 and some thousand people showed up, lined the streets, and 4 or 5 days later, tens of thousands of people had influenza A.
The crazy part, I looked up the Spanish flu. That's one of them that I looked up because I thought this was fascinating. March of 1918. They said the reason why it became the Spanish flu is the first reported deaths were in Spain, which was a neutral country at the time. They say medical historians now hypothesize, thank you, that it could have started at 3 places: a British Army base in France or Fort Riley in Kansas.
That's weird.
That's where the first American cases of the new strain of flu were recorded, March of 1918. So that'd be where it was in the United States. And then a third hypothesis was that it originated in northern China in late 1917, moved through Europe because of about 150,000 Chinese laborers that were going to, they were working with the governments in France and Britain, and were recruited to perform manual labor because they had troops going to war and they needed manual laborers.
Yeah.
And so that if it started in China, they brought all the Chinese laborers into their countries, and thus that's
sure.
where you end up with the France connection as well. So they really don't know for sure, but yeah, it may have killed as many as 50 million people at that time.
It's crazy.
That's
crazy.
So, you know, it's on one side, I agree, but on the other side, how do we get anything done? Because this is going on all the time.
Yeah, it's true.
We're just getting into allergy season for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
So there's going to be a lot of
people need to not freak out.
Uncertainty.
And he said not to freak out. He's like, don't freak out. We don't need to freak out. We don't need to go over the top on things. He said, think about this. He threw out some percentage, and I think it was like 30 or 40% of the kids in this public school systems in our country have a mother or father, a primary caretaker, caregiver that is a nurse, a doctor, somebody in the healthcare system that has to work. So these kids aren't in school anymore. So some of these nurses aren't going to be able to go to work because their kids are going to be at home. So
have to figure out other ways.
It's going to affect everything.
And another thought that came up is, how the hell did the pioneers ever make it? They didn't have Purell.
They lived to be 32 years old.
Not necessarily. They also didn't have places where they got together with 30,000 of their best friends to watch their favorite sporting event.
Right. Yeah, it's true.
And when you think about the mega malls with thousands of people can come into Mall of America, when it used to be going to town to the hardware store.
Yeah.
And greeting everybody, getting together for whatever sporting event, or March Madness with how many teams and every one of their followers all in the same town. College World Series, 50 years, that they've been pulling all, but it wasn't nearly as well attended as it has been in the last, 10, 15. Huge crowds that show up from all over the country and all come together, and they sit in the parking lot and eat each other's food.
Right. Yeah. Oh,
I know. Off the tailgates.
I know.
Football games, even on football Saturday. 90,000 of your closest friends,
right?
All pulled together. And prior to probably the turn of last century, you didn't see those kind of gatherings. And now we're pulling everybody together since ancient Rome. Right. And we're at the Parthenon?
Colosseum.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I don't know. You're absolutely right. And he said, he goes, the next few months are going to be terrible because canceling these sporting events is something that has to happen.
And this is an economic problem.
Huge. But he said, but something that I think we had talked about a couple days ago that he referenced was, he said, just what's going to happen is, and he said he's been right on everything so far. He's been doing this for 50 years.
Right.
That what's going to happen is the numbers going to start slowing down, which they are kind of in China and leveling off.
They are, yeah.
And he said, but what's going to happen is these people that have been self-quarantining are going to come back out, and it's going to come back, and it's going to come back stronger. He said, just because you get it once, you're not immune to it. You could get it again.
It's just like the flu.
Right, exactly.
Literally.
Exactly. So he said that it's going to be 3 to 6 months where we're going to really have to wash our hands all the time, stay away from people as much as possible, and really mind I'm not good at that stuff. I'm touching my eyes all the time. It's going to be really difficult.
Do you feel like you want to get one of the collars of shame now to keep your hands off your face?
Kinda.
I know that was said as a joke by one of our somebody on Facebook said, give him one of these to keep his hands off his face.
A lampshade.
Yeah.
Now I feel like a Shih Tzu.
You could trade it out. Different colors, different days, different lampshades. But the touching of the face is really funny, is that I notice when I do it, because I sit often with my chin in my hand. And if I'm sitting at home and I'm just like at the table, and just have my hand have my face, I'm reading something or I'm looking at something online.
Just what you do.
Or whatever, and I'll have my hand or touching my face when I'm thinking.
Yeah.
My fingertips are on my chin, or I'm like thinking. It's weird that I notice that I'm doing that much more than I realized I did. You dig in though.
Oh, I did. I itch, I scratch, pick my nose, whatever.
I mean, he's like full palms.
I don't, and
all the way up the face. He's like a cartoon.
It's like my stress relief. I stretch and I rub my eyes. That's what I do all the time. That's just what I do. So I saw something yesterday on Instagram too. This guy, he's another infectious disease dude, but he had suggested, with people not being able to buy Purell, you can make your own, basically your Purell with rubbing alcohol and a little bit of water. Right. But he suggested, and it's kind of obsessive, but I mean, who knows, is he's got a little water bottle that he made himself, and he keeps it on his belt, like literally, and he'll walk around, when he walks around places, goes into an escalator, it evaporates really quick.
What's in it?
Kills, I have it written down.
Like rubbing alcohol?
Yeah, a little bit of water, rubbing alcohol primarily, and that's it, really.
Well, see, that's the thing is a lot of these other, and we were talking to people about some of these, like the Purell-like products that really aren't as effective as they appear to be.
They smell like they're cleaning your hands, but they're really not.
And the packaging is a little misleading. And there are a lot of chemicals that you don't know what they all are. Mm-hmm. As simple as you can keep it is going to be the best, because as they've said before, with antibiotics and with other types of chemicals, when you use those, it only makes the strain stronger, because any part of it that can survive that is a little bit more immune to that product, and thus you have to have stronger products.
That makes sense.
Like weeds, like when they were trying to get rid of weeds in the farms. What they sprayed with 40 years ago wouldn't touch what's growing now. And what they spray with now, you don't want to get on your hands. You think about that.
That's scary.
And it's scary. And so if you can find something that's less than that is effective, it's less damaging for you.
And it also helps everybody. He would take it in public places. He walked into an elevator, just squirted the buttons and then pushed the button. He's like, it's going to protect me, but it'll also protect the people behind me.
Right.
And he goes, we could all do this it's less than $1 for a thing of rubbing alcohol, and it evaporates like that. It's not going to like you're having wet surfaces everywhere. Yeah, it was pretty interesting, I thought.
Interesting. All right. So I know this is probably going to be the topic for a lot of people. I know anytime anybody's talking about it, it seems like my ears perk up. I'm like, what are you talking about? But in the grand scheme of things, I don't want everybody to panic, and you hate to see people fighting over a roll of toilet paper or something like that. And speaking of which, too, I had printed out something for you because somebody posted on there because of all the conspiracy theories about who's at fault. Who's at fault for this, and what's the political background reason? They were kind of tongue-in-cheek asking, what do you think? Who caused all this? My answer was Pfizer, Kimberly-Clark, and Procter & Gamble.
For sure.
Pfizer owns Purell, Kimberly-Clark has Cottonelle, and Procter & Gamble has Charmin.
Awesome. That's awesome.
But to be fair, Kimberly-Clark, along with Honeywell and 3M, are being asked to, and I don't know if they're doing it yet, they're being asked to help ramp up the coronavirus protective gear production. And something else that's come out of this, I think, for a lot of people that keep their eye on the economy is the sheer number as far as the trade, what do you want to call it, the path or whatever, as far as how much of what we use medicinally, and let alone all the other cheap crap you can buy at the stores that's made in China, that America needs to start making their own. And as much as we all enjoy our cheap iPhones and our cheap comparatively, because it would cost a lot more if they're made in this country. But you see the disruption of the supply chain.
It's kind of a wake-up call.
It is, that we really are an island, and we're so dependent, and that country all of a sudden got hit, and it's like,
Yeah, it makes you think. It really does.
maybe we have been thrown under the bus for a long time, and not seeing this coming, but for a long time, all this trade's been moved over to China. Somebody's made a lot of money doing that, and we've accepted it because it was, okay, well, the iPhone's cheaper. Oh, okay, well, this is cheaper. My clothes are cheaper.
100%.
And now it's like, okay, maybe we need to bite the bullet.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I like my cheap stuff, but
hopefully they can get that turned around and start, the production, because we're going to need to start producing stuff in this country because we're going to need some jobs.
Right.
Because a lot of stuff is coming to a stop. I saw somebody even post too yesterday that has a restaurant here in town, and they're locally owned. They said they're really feeling it because people are canceling get-togethers, canceling caterings, and reservations, and not especially the caterings and the parties though.
Yeah,
and especially anybody that's got weddings coming up. They're probably thinking,
should we do this? Yeah.
How do you do it?
Absolutely. I agree. Whip your vision into shape right there, yo, with Kugler Vision. We love that they're a supporter of our podcast.
Absolutely. They've got some great things that are happening on their website. If you haven't been there recently, at kuglervision.com. It already was so user-friendly if you'd thought about having any of the procedures done, and so many different procedures. It's not just one procedure, one size fits all. But interestingly, you'll find over 600 five-star patient reviews, which is amazing, the number of people that are taking advantage and saying, you know what, 2020 is going to be my year. And I think there were a couple of them that were talking about making improvements, that 2020 is the year. Right?
Yep.
They're ready to go. And one of the first ones was vision.
I said what Gary said too. Dr. Kugler's office is amazing. They are amazing because you have cookies and they have delicious flavored waters.
They do.
Oh, and then they're also great doctors too.
And that too, don't forget. They said that the staff made the procedure a breeze. That's from Natalia. I especially enjoyed the surgery prep in a massage chair, covered by a blanket, drinking some tea. I was relaxed, anxiety gone. I wish I'd done this years sooner. Now, to make it even simpler, you can text them. The number to text is 72000. You want to text C Omaha, 2 words, to 72000. I did that. And you will get back a response that will first ask you to confirm. So I text back yes. And then it sent me a link. And when you go to the page, it of course welcomes you. And then it's got some real quick questions about what it is that you're looking for. And then I got a follow-up phone call real quick. And super nice. Nicole called, and she's there just to make sure that you got the information you wanted. And if you had any further questions, she was there to help you out.
Get that consultation now at Kugler Vision. You can also go to kuglervision.com.
And tell them Pat and JT sent you.
Did you see that on the East Coast, that grocery store that's selling great promotion? For you get a free case or whatever of toilet paper with every case of Corona that's purchased. So you buy the beer and you get free toilet paper.
Did Corona do that?
I don't know. It's a grocery store on the East Coast that did it. It's like a little promotion for their grocery store.
Well,
it's
then again,
brilliant.
the grocery store might be, because I'm sure Corona has seen like a 30-some% dip in sales.
So I'm sure the grocery
So they're
store
trying
is
to
sitting
move
on
some
it.
of the product?
Yeah, so you get a free butt wipe if you buy some Corona. I think it's absolutely brilliant. Best marketing of this whole thing. Okay, so on our Facebook page, that link for that interview with Joe Rogan and that doctor, the super smart guy. So
Yeah, we'll link to a really good podcast.
That's right.
Pat and JT Podcast, a Parkville Media Production.